Emmanuel has come. Emmanuel, God with us. The name Emmanuel stands at the very heart of the Christian mystery. More than a title or poetic expression, it is a revelation of God's deepest intention toward humanity. Emmanuel means God with us, and within these simple words lies a truth that reshapes the meaning of existence itself. When Scripture proclaims that Emmanuel has come, it announces not merely the birth of a child, but the nearness of God to the human condition. From the beginning of salvation history, humanity has wrestled with the question of God's presence. Is God distant or near? Does he remain above the world, or does he dwell within it? The longing for Emmanuel is woven into the human heart, a desire not simply for divine help, but for divine companionship. The coming of Emmanuel answers this longing in a way no one could have fully anticipated. In the Old Testament, God is revealed as holy, powerful, and transcendent. He speaks through prophets, acts through signs, and guides his people through covenant. Yet even within these revelations, a sense of distance remains. God is present, but often mediated through fire, cloud, law, or temple. The promise of Emmanuel emerges as a hope that God himself will draw closer, that he will not only guide from above, but dwell among his people. The prophet Isaiah gives voice to this hope when he declares that a child will be born and called Emmanuel. At the time, this prophecy speaks into fear and uncertainty. Israel stands vulnerable, threatened by powerful empires, questioning whether God has abandoned them. The promise of Emmanuel is a reassurance. God has not withdrawn. He remains with his people, even in their weakness. Yet the fulfillment of this promise exceeds every expectation. When Emmanuel comes, he does not arrive as a visible sign of power or political restoration. He comes as a child, small, dependent, and vulnerable. In Jesus Christ, God does not merely send a message of presence. He becomes present in flesh and blood. Emmanuel is no longer an abstract assurance. He is a living person. The Incarnation reveals the radical nature of Emmanuel. God does not remain external to human life. He enters it fully. He shares time, space, culture, and limitation. He experiences hunger, fatigue, joy, sorrow, and pain. In Emmanuel, God does not simply accompany humanity from a distance. He walks within human history, sharing its weight and its hope. This truth transforms the meaning of "with us." Emmanuel is not God observing humanity, but God participating in human life. He is present not only in moments of holiness, but in ordinary existence. Work, family, suffering, celebration, none of these are foreign to him. Emmanuel sanctifies human life from within by sharing it. The coming of Emmanuel also reveals the nature of divine love. Love desires closeness. Love seeks presence. By becoming Emmanuel, God shows that his love is not content with distance. He does not rescue humanity while remaining untouched by its condition. He chooses intimacy over separation. Emmanuel is the ultimate expression of a God who refuses to remain distant from those he loves. This presence is not imposed. Emmanuel comes quietly. He does not force recognition or demand acceptance. He allows himself to be ignored, misunderstood, and even rejected. In doing so, God respects human freedom completely. Emmanuel waits to be welcomed. His presence is offered as gift, not imposed as control. For believers, Emmanuel reshapes faith itself. Faith is no longer primarily adherence to law or fear of judgment. It becomes relationship. To believe in Emmanuel is to trust that God is near not only in moments of prayer, but in every circumstance of life. The Christian life becomes a journey lived with God, not merely toward Him. The coming of Emmanuel also changes how suffering is understood. If God is with us, then no pain is endured alone. Emmanuel does not eliminate suffering instantly, but He transforms its meaning. Suffering becomes a place where God is present, where hope can exist even in darkness. Emmanuel assures humanity that God does not abandon them in their weakest moments. Ultimately, Emmanuel reveals that God's greatest desire is communion. He does not seek domination or distance, but shared life. In Jesus Christ, God comes not only to save, but to stay. Emmanuel has come, and His coming changes everything. God enters human history. The coming of Emmanuel marks a decisive moment in human history. God enters time. This is not a symbolic gesture or a poetic metaphor, but a concrete event that reshapes the understanding of history itself. Before Emmanuel, humanity often experienced God as acting upon history from above through commandments, interventions, or judgment. With Emmanuel, God steps inside history, accepting its limits, its rhythms, and its uncertainties. Time becomes the dwelling place of eternity. Human history is marked by longing and rupture. It is a story of creation and fall, promise and failure, hope and disappointment. Civilizations rise and fall, and individuals live and die with questions that often remain unanswered. Into this fragile narrative, Emmanuel comes not to erase history, but to inhabit it. God does not bypass the human story. He enters it at a specific moment, in a specific place, among specific people. This choice affirms that history matters to God. By entering history, God sanctifies it. The Incarnation declares that time is not merely a sequence of events leading toward death, but a space where salvation unfolds. In Jesus Christ, God binds Himself to human time. Past, present, and future are no longer closed systems. They become open to divine presence. Emmanuel transforms history from a record of human striving into a story of divine accompaniment. This entry into history is marked by humility. God does not choose the centers of power or influence. He is born in Bethlehem, a town of little significance. His family is poor. His arrival is unnoticed by political authorities. In choosing such a setting, Emmanuel reveals that God's saving action does not depend on human structures of importance. History's true meaning is often hidden, unfolding quietly beneath the surface of events. The genealogy of Jesus underscores this historical reality. Emmanuel is not detached from human ancestry. He is born into a lineage marked by faith and failure, courage and compromise. Through this lineage, God embraces the complexity of human history. Emmanuel does not enter a purified narrative. He enters the real one. This affirms that God works not only through ideal circumstances, but through flawed humanity. God's entry into history also transforms the meaning of waiting. For centuries, Israel awaited the fulfillment of God's promises. The coming of Emmanuel does not invalidate this waiting. It completes it. Yet it also redefines waiting for future generations. God's presence within history assures believers that waiting is not empty. Even when fulfillment seems delayed, Emmanuel is already present, guiding history toward redemption. This presence within history is gradual rather than immediate. Emmanuel does not instantly transform social systems or eliminate injustice. He grows slowly, lives quietly, and waits years before beginning public ministry. This gradualness reveals God's patience. By entering history fully, God accepts its pace. He allows salvation to unfold through relationship, teaching, and time. Emmanuel teaches humanity that transformation is often slow but faithful. The entry of God into history also brings confrontation. Emmanuel's presence challenges existing values, structures, and expectations. His life exposes injustice, questions power, and calls for conversion. History is no longer neutral. With Emmanuel present, human choices carry new weight. To encounter Emmanuel is to face a decision. To welcome God's presence or to resist it. For believers, God's entry into history offers profound reassurance. Faith is not grounded in abstract ideals, but in lived reality. Emmanuel's life anchors belief in concrete events: birth, growth, suffering, and death. This historical grounding strengthens hope. God has acted within history once, and therefore continues to act within it still. The Church exists as a continuation of this historical presence. Through proclamation, sacrament, and service, the Church carries Emmanuel's presence forward in time. History did not close with Christ's ascension. It remains the place where Emmanuel is encountered. Each generation is invited to recognize God at work within its own circumstances. Ultimately, the coming of Emmanuel reveals that history is not abandoned to chance or despair. God has entered it, embraced it, and transformed it from within. Emmanuel's presence assures humanity that no moment is insignificant, no era forgotten. God is with us, not outside history, but within it, guiding it quietly toward fulfillment. Emmanuel and the mystery of the Incarnation. At the center of the Christian faith stands the mystery of the Incarnation, astonishing truth that God became human. This mystery is not a puzzle to be solved, but a reality to be contemplated. When Emmanuel comes, God does not merely draw near in spirit or intention. He assumes human nature fully and irrevocably. The Incarnation reveals that God's way of being with us is not symbolic, but bodily, historical, and personal. The mystery of the Incarnation challenges every human category of thought. Humanity instinctively separates the divine from the human, the infinite from the finite, the holy from the ordinary. Yet, in Emmanuel, these divisions are crossed without being destroyed. God does not cease to be God by becoming human, nor does humanity lose its integrity by being united with God. In Jesus Christ, divinity and humanity meet without confusion, without separation, and without compromise. This union becomes the foundation of salvation. The Incarnation reveals God's radical humility. The eternal Word through whom all things were made accepts the limits of human existence. He enters the vulnerability of infancy, the dependence of childhood, and the discipline of growth. He learns, asks questions, experiences fatigue, and knows suffering. Emmanuel does not hover above human life. He lives it from within. This humility is not weakness, but love expressed as closeness. In becoming human, God affirms the goodness of creation. The Incarnation declares that the material world is not a prison to be escaped, but a gift to be redeemed. Human bodies, relationships, emotions, and labor are taken up into God's saving plan. Emmanuel sanctifies ordinary life by sharing it. Nothing authentically human is foreign to him. This truth reshapes spirituality, grounding it not in escape from the world, but in faithful presence within it. The mystery of the Incarnation also reveals God's desire for communion. God does not save humanity from a distance. He draws close enough to be touched, rejected, and loved. Emmanuel places himself at the mercy of human freedom. He allows himself to be welcomed or refused. In doing so, God shows that love does not coerce. The Incarnation respects human dignity by inviting response rather than forcing compliance. This mystery unfolds in hiddenness. Emmanuel does not reveal his divine identity immediately. For many years, he lives an ordinary life, known simply as the carpenter's son. This hiddenness is part of the Incarnation's logic. God chooses patience over immediacy, relationship over spectacle. Emmanuel teaches that divine presence is often disguised within the familiar. Faith is required not because God is absent, but because he is near in unexpected ways. The Incarnation also transforms suffering from within. By assuming human nature, God assumes the capacity to suffer. Though God remains impassible in his divinity, in Christ he truly experiences pain, rejection, and death. Emmanuel does not eliminate suffering by decree. He redeems it by sharing it. The mystery of the Incarnation reaches its fullness in the cross, but it begins in the vulnerability of Bethlehem. From the first moment, God commits himself to a path that includes suffering for the sake of love. The Incarnation has profound implications for prayer. To pray to Emmanuel is to pray to a God who understands human experience from within. There is no human struggle unknown to him. Weariness, doubt, loneliness, and hope are familiar to Emmanuel. This intimacy invites confidence. Prayer becomes dialogue rather than distance, trust rather than fear. For the Church, the mystery of the Incarnation shapes identity and mission. The Church is not called to replace Christ, but to continue his presence in the world. As Emmanuel took flesh, the Church is called to take form within history, visible, tangible, and engaged. The Incarnation becomes the model for Christian witness, faith expressed through concrete acts of love, justice, and mercy. The Incarnation also reveals the unity of God's saving plan. Creation, covenant, prophecy, and redemption converge in Emmanuel. God's actions are not fragmented or contradictory. The same God who creates, calls, and promises is the God who becomes human. In Christ, the story of salvation finds coherence. The mystery of the Incarnation assures believers that God's faithfulness endures across time. For individual believers, Emmanuel and the Incarnation invite a response of wonder and transformation. To accept that God has become human is to allow that truth to reshape self-understanding. Human life gains new dignity and responsibility. If God has chosen to dwell within humanity, then every human life becomes a potential dwelling place of grace. Ultimately, the mystery of the Incarnation reveals a God who desires nearness above all else. Emmanuel has not come to remain distant, but to share life fully. In Jesus Christ, God crosses every distance that separates him from humanity. The Incarnation proclaims that God is not only for us, but truly with us now and forever. Emmanuel in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is the place where the meaning of Emmanuel becomes visible. It is here, in a small and seemingly insignificant town, that God with us enters the world in a way both tangible and startling. Bethlehem does not impress by size, power, or influence. It impresses by its humility. In choosing Bethlehem, God reveals the manner in which he desires to be present among humanity, not through dominance or display, but through closeness and simplicity. The name Bethlehem itself carries symbolic weight. It means house of bread, a detail that quietly anticipates the nourishment Emmanuel will one day offer to the world. In this humble setting, God does not arrive as a distant ruler, but as a child who must be fed, warmed, and protected. Emmanuel's presence in Bethlehem declares that God chooses to dwell where life is fragile and dependent. The circumstances surrounding Christ's birth further deepen this revelation. There is no room in the inn. Emmanuel enters a world already crowded, distracted, and unprepared to receive him. Yet God does not turn away. He accepts a mandrake-feeding Troas, his first resting place. This choice reveals that God's presence does not depend on ideal conditions. Emmanuel comes even when space is limited and welcome uncertain. Bethlehem reveals the paradox of divine nearness. The one through whom the universe was created lies in a manger. The infinite becomes finite. The holy becomes ordinary. Yet nothing essential is lost. Instead, everything is transformed. The manger becomes a throne, not by power, but by love. Emmanuel in Bethlehem teaches that God's greatness is revealed most fully through humility. This humility reshapes human expectations of God. Many look for God in places of success, strength, or spectacle. Bethlehem redirects this search. It reveals that God is often found in simplicity, silence, and the margins of society. Emmanuel does not wait to be discovered in palaces or temples. He allows himself to be found in a stable. Faith becomes a matter of attentiveness rather than achievement. The presence of Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem embodies the human response to Emmanuel. Their faith is quiet, trusting, and persevering. They do not fully understand the mystery unfolding before them, yet they remain present to it. Through them, Bethlehem becomes a space of welcome. Emmanuel is not received by crowds, but by hearts willing to trust in the midst of uncertainty. Bethlehem also reveals the vulnerability of God's presence. Emmanuel arrives without protection, exposed to the elements and dependent on human care. This vulnerability is not a weakness, but an expression of divine love. God places himself at the mercy of humanity, trusting that love will respond. In doing so, Emmanuel invites humanity into a relationship defined by trust rather than fear. The shepherd's arrival at Bethlehem further illuminates the meaning of Emmanuel. These simple laborers, living on the edges of society, are among the first to recognize God with us. Their presence confirms that Emmanuel comes for all, especially for those who live without recognition or power. Bethlehem becomes a meeting place where heaven draws near to the poor and humble. Bethlehem's silence also shapes the experience of Emmanuel. There are no speeches, no proclamations, no visible signs of triumph. God's presence is revealed through stillness and intimacy. Emmanuel in Bethlehem teaches that divine presence often speaks most clearly in silence. Those who are willing to slow down and listen are able to perceive what others miss. The choice of Bethlehem also points forward to the path Emmanuel will take. The humility of the manger foreshadows the humility of the cross. From the beginning, Emmanuel's presence is marked by self-giving. Bethlehem is not an isolated moment of tenderness. It is the first step in a life poured out for others. The Incarnation unfolds along a path of love that leads through sacrifice. For believers, Bethlehem becomes more than a historical location. It becomes a spiritual place. To encounter Emmanuel in Bethlehem is to allow God to enter one's own vulnerability and limitation. It is to accept that God may come in ways that disrupt expectations. Bethlehem invites believers to make room not for an idealized God, but for a God who chooses closeness over comfort. Ultimately, Emmanuel in Bethlehem reveals the heart of the gospel. God does not remain distant. He comes near, shares life, and remains present in the most ordinary circumstances. Bethlehem stands as a perpetual sign that God with us is not an abstract promise, but a lived reality. Emmanuel has come, and he comes where humility makes room for love. Emmanuel and human fragility. The coming of Emmanuel reveals a God who chooses to dwell within human fragility. From the first moments of his earthly life, God with us embraces weakness, limitation, and dependence. This choice is not accidental, nor is it merely symbolic. It reveals a profound truth about God's way of loving. He does not stand apart from human fragility. He enters it fully. In Emmanuel, weakness becomes the place of divine presence. Human fragility is one of the most universal experiences of life. From birth to death, every person encounters vulnerability, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Fear, illness, failure, uncertainty, and loss mark the human condition. Many struggle to reconcile these realities with faith, imagining that God's presence should eliminate weakness. Emmanuel challenges this assumption. God does not remove fragility. He sanctifies it by sharing it. The infancy of Jesus makes this truth unmistakable. Emmanuel enters the world unable to speak, walk, or protect himself. He depends entirely on Mary and Joseph for survival. The Creator of all accepts the condition of being carried, fed, and comforted. In doing so, God affirms the dignity of human dependence. Fragility is no longer a sign of absence or failure. It becomes a place where God chooses to dwell. This divine choice reshapes how weakness is understood. In a culture that prizes strength, independence, and control, fragility is often hidden or denied. Emmanuel reveals another way. By embracing fragility, God shows that strength is not the opposite of weakness. True strength is revealed through love that remains present even when power is absent. Emmanuel's vulnerability is not a limitation of love, but its fullest expression. Human fragility also includes emotional and relational vulnerability. Jesus grows within a family that knows uncertainty, displacement, and fear. Emmanuel experiences the insecurity of exile, the pain of misunderstanding, and the sorrow of loss. He is not shielded from emotional wounds. By living these realities, God assures humanity that no fragile experience is foreign to him. Emmanuel understands not from observation, but from participation. This closeness to fragility offers deep consolation. Many carry burdens they feel unable to express: quiet fears, hidden wounds, private struggles. Emmanuel's presence affirms that these places are not beyond God's reach. The holy mystery of God with us assures believers that God meets them not after fragility is resolved, but within it. Weakness becomes a meeting place rather than an obstacle. The fragility of Emmanuel also reveals the patience of God. Growth takes time. Healing unfolds gradually. Emmanuel does not bypass the slow rhythms of human development. He grows, learns, and matures within ordinary time. This patience teaches believers to trust processes rather than demand instant transformation. God's work within fragility is faithful, even when it is slow. Emmanuel's embrace of fragility also calls believers to a new way of relating to one another. If God chooses to dwell within weakness, then weakness must be honored rather than despised. Compassion becomes a natural response to fragility, not judgment. The presence of Emmanuel invites the Church to be a place where vulnerability is met with care, not exclusion. This truth also challenges the illusion of self-sufficiency. Human fragility reveals the need for relationship with God and with others. Emmanuel affirms this interdependence. By accepting human limitation, God validates the human need for support, community, and grace. Faith becomes not a performance of strength, but a relationship of trust. The connection between Emmanuel and fragility also points toward redemption. God does not merely accompany fragility. He transforms it from within. What appears weak becomes a channel of grace. The cross, where Emmanuel's fragility reaches its extreme, becomes the source of salvation. Yet this redemptive path begins already in Bethlehem, where weakness is embraced as the starting point of love. For believers, Emmanuel and human fragility offer a new way of living faith. Rather than hiding weakness, believers are invited to bring it into relationship with God. Prayer becomes honest. Trust becomes deeper. Hope becomes more resilient. Fragility is no longer something to overcome alone, but something to place into God's presence. Ultimately, Emmanuel reveals that fragility is not a failure of creation, but a place of encounter. God with us chooses to dwell where life is most delicate. In doing so, he declares that no weakness is meaningless, no vulnerability wasted. Emmanuel stands with humanity in its fragility, not to condemn it, but to redeem it through love. Emmanuel and the poor. The coming of Emmanuel reveals a God who chooses to be present among the poor. From the very beginning of his earthly life, God with us identifies himself with those who live on the margins, those without power, wealth, or voice. This choice is not incidental. It is a deliberate revelation of God's heart. Emmanuel does not merely care for the poor from a distance. He enters their condition and makes it his own. The circumstances of Christ's birth already proclaim this truth. Emmanuel is born not in comfort, but in poverty. His parents offer the sacrifice of the poor in the temple. His home is simple. His surroundings are marked by insecurity and dependence. In embracing poverty, God affirms that human worth is not measured by possessions or status. Emmanuel reveals that God's presence does not follow wealth. It seeks vulnerability. Poverty is often accompanied by silence and invisibility. The poor are easily overlooked, their struggles unnoticed. By entering the world in poverty, God breaks this silence from within. Emmanuel's birth declares that God sees what the world ignores. He does not wait for the poor to rise to visibility. He descends to meet them where they are. In doing so, God restores dignity to lives dismissed as insignificant. The shepherd's place in the Nativity story deepens this revelation. As laborers living on the edges of society, they represent those whose lives unfold far from centers of power. It is to them that the good news is first announced. Emmanuel's coming reverses human expectations. God entrusts his greatest mystery not to the influential, but to the humble. This choice affirms that openness of heart matters more than social standing. Throughout his life, Emmanuel continues this pattern. He lives among the poor, speaks to them in language they understand, and forms friendships with those excluded by society. His ministry consistently reveals God's closeness to those who hunger not only for food, but for dignity, justice, and hope. Emmanuel's presence among the poor is not temporary or symbolic. It is enduring and personal. This divine closeness challenges comfortable faith. It confronts believers with the question of where they expect to find God. Emmanuel reveals that God is often encountered where human comfort is least. The poor become not merely recipients of charity, but bearers of God's presence. To encounter them is to encounter Emmanuel himself. Emmanuel's solidarity with the poor also exposes the danger of indifference. Poverty is not only a lack of resources, it is often the result of systems that ignore or exploit. By entering poverty, God judges indifference without condemnation. Emmanuel's presence calls humanity to responsibility. God with us does not accuse from afar. He invites conversion through closeness. For the Church, Emmanuel and the poor are inseparable. The Church cannot proclaim God with us while remaining distant from those in need. Bethlehem establishes a pattern. God is found where vulnerability is embraced. The Church is called not only to serve the poor, but to walk with them, listening before acting, sharing life rather than offering solutions alone. This solidarity is not romantic. Poverty brings real suffering, fear, and insecurity. Emmanuel does not idealize it. He enters it to redeem it. His presence assures the poor that they are not abandoned. At the same time, he calls the world to transformation not by guilt alone, but by relationship. Emmanuel's way is not domination, but communion. For believers, Emmanuel and the poor offer a path of discipleship. To follow God with us is to allow one's heart to be moved by vulnerability. It means resisting the temptation to turn away from discomfort.